Hey gang, and welcome back. Just a reminder, you can now use the promo code MTGMudsta, all caps, at flipsidegaming.com. You'll get 10% off orders over $10 and help with the channel at the same time. This week we travel back to Montreal to check off two things from lists that people have been asking for. This game has both my Prosh deck and Evil Atom, so sit down or stand up and let's get into it. I am playing Prosh as I mentioned before, and I keep a hand with Bloodstained Mire, Dragonskull Summit, Blood Artist, Bitter Blossom, Chaos Warp, Hornet Queen, and Sarkhan Vol. Evil Atom is playing Derevi and keeps a hand with Windswept Heath, Seaside Haven, Hollowed Fountain, Natural Order, Verdant Catacombs, Thrasios Triton Hero, and Diamond Valley. My buddy Fred is playing Brago and keeps a hand with Ichor Wellspring, Restoration Angel, Augury Owl, Cyclonic Rift, 2 islands, and a snow-covered plains. Lastly, Alex, who's new to the channel, is playing Teneb and keeps a hand with Arid Mesa, Necromancy, Court of Calling, Animate Dead, Caustic Caterpillar, and Auriok Salvagers. For once, I win the die roll and start us off. For the first turn of the game, I play a Bloodstained Mire and pass. Evil Atom plays a tapped Hallowed Fountain and passes to Fred. Fred plays a Snow-Covered Plains, and at the end of Fred's turn, I crack my Mire to go and find a Bayou. Alex plays an Arid Mesa, cracking it and taking 1 to go and find Savannah. He then casts a Caustic Caterpillar and passes turn. I play Dragonskull Summit for my turn and cast Bitter Blossom. Evil Atom plays a Forest and brings out Thrasios. Fred plays a Command Tower and casts an Augury Owl, scrying. He puts 1 on the bottom and 2 back on top in the order of his choosing. Alex plays Caves of Koilos for his land for turn and takes 1 from the caves to cast Demonic Tutor. He grabs a card and passes to me. I lose a life on my upkeep to gain a fairy token, and have no lands for turn. With nothing else, I have no choice but to pass to Atom. Evil Atom plays a Windswept Heath, cracking it to find a Savannah and brings in Derevi. He untaps the Savannah and swings Thrasios at Alex. Atom then untaps his Hallowed Fountain, and in his second main phase, he casts Fertile Ground on his Savannah and passes. Fred plays an island tapped to immediately cast a Sol Ring. Fred then taps out to cast Brago and passes to Alex. Alex plays a Mana Confluence and takes 1 from the caves to cast a Viscera Seer. He then passes to me. On my upkeep, I get another fairy token but still can't draw a land because I'm bad at this game. I make a bit of an ambitious move and decide to cast Crop Rotation to find a copy of Gaia's Cradle. I then tap the Cradle in my lands to cast a Phyrexian Altar before passing to Atom. Atom plays a Diamond Valley for his land for turn and casts a Gilded Drake, and Fred isn't too happy about it. Naturally, as he's pure evil, Evil Atom steals Fred's commander. Atom then swings Derevi and Thrasios at Alex, untapping his Savannah. In his second main phase, Atom casts Natural Order, sacrificing Derevi to go and find Seedborn Muse. Fred plays an island for his turn and casts an Ichor Wellspring to draw a card. Fred then passes turn, and Atom activates Thrasios' ability to reveal an island off the top and plays it. Alec apparently likes pain and drops the City of Brass. He then loses 3 life to cast Necropotence. Alex then pays a further 3 to put 3 cards into exile and put them into his hand at the end of turn. Moving to his end step, he does just that. Evil Atom once again pays 4 to use Thrasios again and reveals a Plains off the top before putting it onto the field. On my upkeep, responding to my Bitter Blossom trigger, Evil Atom decides to get cute and brings in Derevi to tap down my Cradle. With the trigger on the stack, I cast Chaos Warp targeting his Seedborn Muse. I then lose 1 life and gain a fairy as Atom reveals Command Tower off the top of his library. I still can't find a land though, and I pass my turn. On Evil Atom's upkeep, Fred decides it's also time to get even, and flashes in Restoration Angel to flicker the Gilded Drake. With the Drake targeting Brago, Atom responds to the trigger by sacrificing Brago to return it to Fred's command zone and gain 4 life. This causes the Drake to also die, and Atom draws for turn. Atom plays a Seaside Haven for his land for turn, and moves to combat. He swings Thrasios and Derevi at Alex once more, and I decide to cast Berserk on Thrasios. Atom responds by activating Thrasios to try and find a counterspell on the top, but bottoms the card and reveals a Sacred Mesa. Atom then activates Thrasios once more and hits a high market. The spell then resolves, and this means Alex takes an additional point of damage, but Atom will lose Thrasios at the end of his turn. Atom untaps his Savannah and his Forest in his second main phase to cast Eldritch Evolution, sacrificing Derevi. He goes into his library and grabs Seedborn Muse once more, and at the end of his turn, Thrasios dies. Fred plays a Glacial Fortress for his land for turn before casting Reflector Mage. Fred has the mages enter the battlefield trigger target Seedborn Muse, and bounces it back to Atom's hand, not letting him cast it next turn. Moving to combat, Fred swings his Restoration Angel at Atom for 3, and the Augury Owl at Alex for 1. Alex plays a Reflecting Pool for his land for turn, and taps out with both of his lands and his creatures to cast a Court of Calling where X is 4. He finds a Mind Slicer and sticks it onto the field. Alex then does what anyone with a Mind Slicer and Viscera Seer would do, and sacrifices the Mind Slicer. With the Mind Slicer on Death Trigger hitting the stack, Fred casts a Cyclonic Rift to bounce Alex's Necropotence back to his hand. Alex responds to this by paying 7 life, and the Rift resolves before we all discard our hands. At the end of turn, Alex puts 7 cards into his hand from Necropotence triggers. I lose 1 on my upkeep to get a fairy token, and finally draw that 3rd land. It's a shame I don't have any action to use with it, and I move to combat. I swing the 2 fairies who can attack at Alex for 2 before passing to Adam. At the end of my turn, Adam brings in Derevi and sacrifices her to the Seaside Haven to draw a card. He then cheats her in once more and starts his turn. Adam draws for turn and casts Conqueror's Flail in his main phase. He gears up Derevi and slings Derevi at Fred for 5. He uses the trigger from Derevi to untap Derevi and passes to Fred. Fred casts an Azorius Signet in his main phase before recasting his commander, Brago. With nothing else, he passes to Alex. Alex plays a command tower and contemplates blowing up Adam's flail. Alex decides against this play, at least for now, and brings out Teneb, taking 2. On my upkeep, I get another fairy token and lose another life. I then draw, and in my first main phase, I tap Cradle for 4 green mana and the rest of my lands to cast Prosh. I get 6 Kobold tokens from my on-cast trigger before Prosh hits the field. At the end of my turn, Adam sacrifices Derevi to Diamond Valley, gaining 6 life, and cheats her back in. He uses the Enter the Battlefield trigger to tap Fred's Restoration Angel. Adam draws and plays a Tropical Island before paying to re-equip Derevi with the Flail. Adam then brings out Bloom Tender and moves to combat. He hits Fred for 5 and untaps Derevi before passing to Fred. Fred draws for turn, but with a flyer on each opponent's side, he has no way to connect with Brago, so he passes to Alex. Alex plays a Swamp for his land for turn and casts a Spirit of the Labyrinth. Alex then casts a Blood Artist and an Elvish Mystic before passing turn. I lose another life on my upkeep to get a Fairy token, and I tap my Cradle in my main phase to gain, well, a lot of green mana. I then pay 1 red to cast Xenagos, God of Revels, which Fred counters with a Swan Song. Using my remaining green mana floating, I cast Beast Within, targeting Alex's Blood Artist. Alex isn't thrilled about this, but I'm even less thrilled about the idea of losing 1 every time I sacrifice a creature, but Alex decides to sacrifice the artist to his Seer. He drains me for 1 and scries. He keeps the card on top, and I move to combat. I swing Prosh and 4 fairies at Adam. Adam blocks with Derevi, and I sacrifice a fairy so we trade. Adam then takes 3 from the remaining fairies, and at the end of my turn, Adam brings back Derevi and has to decide what he'll untap or tap. Alex makes a compelling case that if Adam targets Teneb, he'll blow up Adam's flail, so Adam taps the Restoration Angel once more. Adam draws for his turn and moves to combat. He swings Derevi at Fred, who chumps with his Augury Howl. Adam then passes turn. Fred draws and plays an Ancient Den for his land for turn and moves to combat. Adam sacrifices Derevi at the beginning of his combat step to the Seaside Haven, drawing a card. Adam then cheats out Derevi to tap down Brago. With all of his incentive to attack gone, Fred passes to Alex. Alex plays a Blooming Marsh for his land for turn, which comes into play tapped. Alex then pays 1 to cast Swords to Plowshares, targeting Derevi, and Adam taps Bloom Tender in response. Alex moves to the beginning of his combat step, and Adam gets some revenge by beginning Derevi and tapping down Teneb. With nothing else, Alex passes turn. On my upkeep, I lose another point of life to get a fairy token, which I say like I have a choice. I then tap my Cradle for 12 green mana, and use 1 of it to cast a Skull Clamp. I try to equip one of the kobolds with the clamp, and Alex sacrifices his Caterpillar to destroy the clamp. I then recast Prosh, gaining another 8 kobold tokens, and moving to combat, I swing my bird at Alex for 2, and pass turn. Adam plays a Botanical Sanctum as his land for turn, and re-equips Derevi. Adam then casts a Dowsing Dagger, and gives the 2 plant tokens to Fred. Adam then equips the dagger onto Derevi and moves to combat. Adam swings Derevi at Alex for 7 and untaps Derevi from her own trigger. He chooses not to flip the dagger and passes turn. Fred draws for turn and is frustrated by the spirit being on the field. Alex makes a deal with Fred, saying he'll sacrifice the spirit if Fred doesn't attack him this turn. Fred agrees, and Alex sacrifices the spirit to the Viscera Seer, scrying 1. Alex decides to bottom the card, and Fred casts a Cloud Blazer, drawing 2 cards and gaining 2 life. Fred then plays an island and moves to combat. At the beginning of his combat step, Adam taps his Bloom Tender to float 3 mana and sacrifices Derevi once more. Adam then brings back Derevi and taps down Brago. Alex moves straight to combat on his turn and swings Teneb at Fred. Fred lets it go through as Alex has promised to help deal with Adam. Teneb hits Fred for 6, and in response to his own trigger, Alex casts Entomb to go and find a card and puts it into his graveyard. He grabs and dumps Grey Merchant of Asphodel. Alex then pays 3 and brings the merchant back. We all lose 4, and Alex gains some much needed 12 life. With nothing else, Alex passes turn. I gain another fairy on my upkeep, losing 1 life. I then cast a Smothering Abomination in my main phase, but Adam stops it with a mana drain. Moving to combat, I swing my 2 fairies at Alex and Prosh and the bird at Adam. Adam is afraid that I'll sacrifice all my tokens to Prosh, so he chumps Prosh with Derevi and takes 2. At the end of my turn, Alex takes 1 to flash in Hushwing Gryff. Adam uses 1 of the colorless mana from Mana Drain in his main phase to cast a Mana Vault. I just realized I said mana 3 times in that sentence, and Adam passes to Fred. Fred transmutes Muddle the Mixture on his turn and goes to find Swiftfoot Boots. Fred then casts the boots and equips them onto Brago before passing turn. Alex draws for turn and drops a Protean Hulk, which is, believe it or not, the first time I've seen him since he's unbanned. Alex then sacrifices the Hushwing to his Seer and scries 1. At this point, I'm pretty sure we're all dead, so I tap my Gaia's Cradle to float 17 green mana, before sacrificing them to my altar to make a sweet 34 mana that's got nothing to do. Alex then sacrifices Protean Hulk and starts to work through his combo. He grabs a Karmic Guide at first, and Adam cycles through the Derevi/Haven trick to see if he can find a way to stop the combo. He unfortunately hits Horizon Canopy, which won't help us. Alex finishes tutoring for a Carrion Feeder to have the total mana cost be 6, and he brings back Protean Hulk with the Karmic Guide trigger. He then sacrifices the Hulk once more to go and grab Safi and Marin. Alex then cycles through the Safi Karmic Guide cycle once more to get 2 experience counters, and at the end of his turn, he's able to bring back Blood Artist. Alex is then able to loop the Safi and Karmic Guide cycle to kill the table. Game review time. I have no idea what happened to my Prosh deck. I run 35 lands, 7 mana dorks, and 3 1 mana or less mana rocks. In my experience playing the deck, I don't think I've ever been as hosed on lands as I was in this game. Thank goodness for crop rotation, because he was able to find me Gaia's Cradle, and Cradle did work this game. Things would have certainly gone better for me had I been able to resolve either the Skull Clamp or the Smothering Abomination and drawn a couple cards. Obviously my opponents knew this and didn't want that to happen, so I think they played properly. Evil Adam was hated out pretty early on, and I can't really blame everyone. Seedborn Muse's ability to untap on everyone else's turn makes things very obnoxious, especially with Thrasios out and Adam basically being able to fill up his hand and ramp. Adam was also equally as punished as everyone else when Mindslicer tanked our hands, and Alex is the only one who's able to recover thanks to Necropotence. As I said in the video, I'd never seen a Protean Hulk before in person after the unbanning, and Alex going through the steps and taking the time to explain how it works was a real pleasure. It wasn't even an optimal line as he explained to us after the game, since Blood Artist being in the graveyard really set him back, and he had to find different creatures than he typically would. Fred unfortunately was not able to connect with Brago, and as a result, his entire deck kind of fell flat. Even though he was able to get Brago out on turn 3, Evil Adam was not allowing Fred to attack with Brago, and any kind of enter the battlefield effects that he'd planned on flickering quickly became something of the past. I am thankful that Fred had the Cyclonic Rift in his hand for the Necropotence with the Mindslicer trigger on the stack, because I think if he hadn't done that, the game would have ended much faster in favor of Alex. Please be sure to tune in every Monday and Thursday at 11 AM Eastern Standard Time for a guaranteed new video. You can also follow me on Twitter at MTGMudsta. You can find me on Facebook at facebook.com/mtgmudsta, and lastly, you can check me out when I stream at twitch.tv/mtgmudsta. This video is brought to you in part by support from my Patreons. If you're looking for a way to help out the channel, please be sure to visit my Patreon link below. Thank you all for watching this video, and don't forget, friends are just opponents you haven't eliminated yet.